This story is called The Very Talented Chicken. In a nest, in a shed, in a farm, in the countryside, there once was an egg. Like most eggs, it was egg shaped. In fact, there wasn't a single amazing thing about this egg at all. It was what was inside that was special. Because this wasn't the kind of egg that you just crack open, poach, and eat on toast. Inside this egg, in that nest, in that shed, in that farm, in the countryside, there was a tiny little chick. And from the moment that egg cracked open with a that little chick began to sing its heart out. Chickens don't usually sing, it's true. Not because they're unhappy or shy, but simply because they don't have the voice for it. But I've already said that this chicken was special. Any chicken singing would be special, but the beauty with which this chicken sang would take every last drop of your breath away. He was only a tiny, fluffy yellow chick, but the tender melodies that he trilled in that lowly little shed seemed to wash around, warming all the other chicks and chickens throughout the rest of that cold winter. While all of his little brothers and sisters were busy pecking at grain and, if they were feeling adventurous, walking over to the door and back again, this talented little chick used to just sit in the corner and sing, sing, sing his tiny little heart out. As spring became summer, that little chick grew up into a fine, colourful cockerel, and the songs kept coming. Every day this fine chicken would sing a new song of his own composing, all brand new sweet melodies, but once he was a fully grown chicken, he started to croon the coolest swinging numbers and even belt out some hard rocking tunes as the other chickens beat out a rhythm with their beaks on their metal water troughs. They loved their singing cockerel, and by now everyone for miles around had fallen in love with his marvellous melodies. Although, as yet, none of the people listening knew where the tunes came from. Now, this farm was owned by a very famous man called Izzy McKismo. That wasn't actually his real name, it was actually Reg McBodge. But then it didn't really matter, because his hair colour wasn't real either, or his teeth, and his nose had also been many shapes over the years. Izzy McKismo, you see, was a rock and roll star. He'd been top of the pops almost every week over 30 years ago, and he himself wrote some of the most toe-tapping tunes of his era. He had even been given a knighthood for services to pop, although thankfully that didn't require him to put on armour and fight wars or dragons, because he couldn't have wielded a sword for toffee. Besides, his heyday was a long time ago, and now he was mostly famous for being famous. Despite all this, Izzy McKismo was a real animal lover, a vegetarian, and in fact a rather good farmer. He'd spent the colder months of the year in his mansion in Bermuda, but now the fields were green and full of fat little lambs larking about. He was home and had brought his 9-year-old daughter, Fairy Lambretta, with him. Well, she was officially known as Fairy Lambretta, but all of her friends called her Flo. She made sure of that. Like his millions of followers, she loved her father very much, but she knew that he had long ago lost touch with normal life, and didn't blame him too much for giving her the silliest name in school. Early one morning, when the sun was still only a possibility suggested by a lightening of the night sky and strange shades of pink and even green in the clouds, Flo was already up and dressed and running through the fields. She loved being the first person to walk through the long grass, feeling the dew soaking her feet and leaving crazy tracks in her wake. It had been a long journey from Bermuda, and she had slept so much that now she was bursting with energy, despite the early hour. She ran to the big old oak tree and sat in the swing that stretched from one of the antique gnarled branches. Whether she fell asleep on there she was not sure, but as the first shimmer of the waking sun appeared, she heard the most wonderful sound. She was used, of course, to being woken by the crowing of a rooster, cock-a-doodle-doo, and all that, but this was very different, and this song made her feel more awake than she could ever remember being. She rushed over to the hen house and stood, gaping. There, framed against the sunrise, strutting around on a mound of earth and backed by a trio of warbling red hens, was the very talented chicken. Together, the chicks were crooning the most upbeat, exciting, original tune to be heard in years. The song wafted over the fields, lightening the hearts of everyone who heard it. A lonely goat in a scrubby field wiggled its tail and took another mouthful of grass with a grin. A neighbouring farmer paused as he put on his wellies and began to whistle along. and the lazy cat on the farmhouse roof basked in its warming melody. Flo couldn't help but join in the dance, clanging two milk bottles together in the chorus. Nobody could have slept through that, and Izzy Machismo was not nobody. The sound of the music pulsated through his gluey-eyed half-dreams and called him into the new morning as well. He fumblingly picked up his guitar, flicked his bedside recording unit to on, and began to play along with the unseen musicians, making up the words as he went along. Sitting in the morning, playing in the sun, nothing planned to do today but something fun. And within 5 minutes, Izzy Machismo had the makings of the best hit single of his life. Down at breakfast, half an hour later, Flo was just pouring out her dad's chocky flakes when he happened to mention a new song he'd written. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it Playing in the Sun or something. It's the best I've ever written. And he sang her a few verses of the song. Dad, you didn't write that. It's the new Cockerel. He sang that song this morning when I got up really early, and I was going to tell you all about it. And yeah, I've been watching too much Saturday morning telly, my girl. Chickens don't come up with numbers like that. He paused, a look of puzzlement on his usually blank face as he continued dreamily. I heard it in a dream. But nonetheless, he told himself, it wouldn't do any harm to get up a little earlier in the morning and make sure that a tape was running. Izzy Machismo made a very startling re-entry into the pop charts early the next month with his hit single Something Something Son. All the music critics, young and old, raved about it non-stop. People would gather round in groups and sing it at the top of their voices, and that whole summer was filled with a new sound of Izzy Machismo. Sound of the summer, mate. He'd stockpiled a whole library of songs over the years, but all of them were in the trash. Instead, Izzy had his 5 precious new songs, all put together early in the morning on his farm as the chickens jived and wailed and danced and trilled in their henhouse beneath his window. Pretty soon, he'd have enough songs for his big comeback album. This is why it wasn't that surprising to find, a week or two later, a large TV truck parked in the driveway of Izzy's farm, and in the shelter of the old oak, a cluster of men and women, some holding dazzling lights, some holding cameras or clipboards, and in the midst of them all, Polly Pepper, the #1 pop TV presenter, accepting a long, cool glass of homemade damson squash from Izzy Machismo, who was ready to be interviewed. She'd been lovely to little Flo, who was a big fan, and even signed her school bag before the interview started. But soon, everyone had to be quiet. The cameras started buzzing. Hiya, you're watching the unfortunately titled PPTV, all the hottest goss and gob from the pop world. And this is Polly Pepper, perched 3 feet away from the first guest we've ever had on the show, who can literally lay claim to the name of demigod, Izzy Machismo. What's all this demi business? Asked Izzy with a laugh. Polly giggled. First things first, Sir Izzy, I am just in love with Something Something Son. I haven't stopped humming it in weeks. 7 weeks at #1, you must be thrilled. Oh, of course, beamed Izzy. I haven't stopped thrilling myself since I first heard it. Wrote it yourself, don't you mean? Said Polly. Well, yeah, but it's all just out there, isn't it? He said in his usual dreamy way. Music, just waiting to be grabbed from the air, you know. Polly said she knew. Not that I nicked it or anything like that, added Izzy hastily. He'd taken a lot of other pop bands to court in the recent years for grabbing music from the air, except that their songs came out sounding like one of Izzy's old ones. Inspiration is one thing, said Izzy, but some of those guys were just taking that. So, we can expect a whole album later in the summer, butted in Polly. Oh yeah, Polly, just you wait. I tell you what, I've been waking up totally inspired, getting at least one song that'll knock you out of your shoes and socks, onto your bum, and bouncing back into your shoes again, like 2 or 3 times a week. No, it was the chick, piped up Flo, but her dad shushed her up quickly, and Polly explained that they had to have a bit of quiet just for the exclusive interview, but it was okay, they could easily edit out Flo's yelp. Sorry about that, continued Izzy. Artistic temperament just like her dad. Now I should have enough tracks laid down for the album in a few days, you know. I record them here in my own studio, play the bass, the drums, piano, lead guitar, keyboards, triangle, tuba, stuff like that. Well, I know I can speak for all of us at PPTV when I say that we can't wait to hear the finished album, Sir Izzy. Thanks so much for speaking to us. Cheers, Paul. Loved it. Izzy grinned, and Polly turned to the camera. Back to you in the studio, Polly, she said, that being the point at which she'd link to a really rubbish boy band or something when she got back into the studio. In the real world, she sipped a drink and checked with the director that everything they needed was in the can. Thank you so much again, Sir Izzy, she said, flashing him with a 100-watt smile that had got her onto all the TV screens in the land, or at least most of them. So why the wait for the comeback? Didn't feel the muse calling to me, I suppose, love, said Izzy, and suddenly a new tune filled the air. The chicken was singing. It was a rocking, rolling, hard-pumping rock song and a half. The song exploded out over the farm, electrifying the air. The lonely goat in the scrubby field heard and butted the old pear tree to the beat. The farmer put down his bucket of muck and struck a rock pose for his pigs, and the lazy cat on the farmhouse roof shook her tail to the rhythm. This is just a demo. I must have left the tape running in the studio or something, shouted Izzy over the noise of the crazy music. It's good, isn't it? Amazing, agreed Polly, and the whole film crew started to dance until Izzy anxiously shepherded them all back into their truck as the last refrains of the song echoed around the large courtyard. I'm thinking of calling it My Name is Izzy, I think, continued Sir Izzy desperately as Polly climbed into her posh sports car. Just crazy. All those years and your music comes flooding out again. I mean, the stuff is better than anyone else around at the moment, you know? Said Polly, and she meant it. Nobody knew more about pop music than Polly Pepper. I really hope you've got one of your classic sad songs on there too, she said. Izzy used to be famous for writing the best soppy love songs in the business. A sad song was a must for any of Izzy Machismo's albums. Just you wait and see, Paul, smiled Izzy, closing her car door for her. I'm gonna write the best sad song of my whole career. I can just feel it in the air, you know. You've heard Something Something Son. You've heard that tune just now. All the work of Izzy Machismo. Night of Rock. Trust me. And as Polly and the TV van spread away, Flo was the only one to see, perched on the tip of the gate, the musical cockerel. And the talented chicken had heard every lie Izzy Machismo had said. Much later, Izzy Machismo put down his guitar and slurped a slurp of elderberry tea. Can I hear it yet? Asked Flo. There's nothing to pigging well here, moaned Izzy. I've been trying to work at this tune for 3 whole days now and nothing doing. That's because the chicken's on strike. This time, Izzy did not scold Flo for talking nonsense. In fact, he said nothing, but plink-plonked some random keys on the piano and stared into space. The sleeve for his new album was ready to go, the music presses ready to forge into action, and still Izzy could not find the one song he needed to complete the best record of his career. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, he plinked on pianos and plucked at guitars and harps and banjos and bass, but nothing came out right. At dawn one day he emerged, blinking into the first rays of hot sunshine, and heard that cockerel crow. And that's what set him off. Izzy Machismo picked up an enormous, hard-heeled shoe that he used to wear on stage and pelted down to the henhouse, all veggie feelings forgotten in his rage. He lifted up the shoe before the very talented chicken, ready to bring it crushing down on the bird's head, drool pouring from his lips, and he thundered, "Give me the song, you stupid chicken! Sing me a song or I'll slice you up for nuggets! Sing!" "No, Dad, no!" piped up Flo, who came striding through the dewy grass. She saw her dad, and the rage in his eyes just melted away. He was sorry already. This was not Izzy Machismo. He dropped the shoe and turned back. The very talented chicken gave Izzy Machismo a sad, hurt stare and began to sing. Ah, it was a heartbreaking song. Loud and clear it travelled out into the morning air, a haunting harmony that could, and very probably did, wring a tear out of the most ignorant garden gnome. The goat in the scrubby field heard and lay, cuddling itself in the shade of the pear tree. The farmer stepped out of his front door, ears alight and tears washing his pudgy cheeks, and into his arms sprang the cat from the roof, purring a sigh as he hugged her close to him. Long and wonderfully the cockerel sang, and Izzy remembered every single note. And, as the song ended, the very talented chicken gave Izzy Machismo one last mournful look, bowed, and fell down still, never to sing again. Izzy Machismo's album did come out that summer, but it was not called My Name Is Izzy. It was called Chicken Shoe Blues, and not once was Izzy Machismo's name printed on the millions of albums that sent Chicken Shoe Blues to the top of the charts for the rest of that year. Every single penny that album made went directly to many different charities, but especially those that had anything to do with chickens. Flo and Izzy agreed on the whole thing. They cried for the chicken, and he was laid to rest beneath a wonderful statue of himself, singing with all his heart. Izzy was a changed man and even managed to write one final song all by himself. It was called The Very Talented Chicken, so nobody would forget the cockerel who made the most beautiful music a bird had ever sang. And his music soared out, not just over the countryside, over the goat in the scrubby field, past the farmer's house and the lazy cat, but all over the world and forever. And people had to agree that chicken could rock. Peace and love, the end, peace and love. Thank you.